without further ado, welcome Sinead. And I was wondering, to kick things off, could you tell us the story of how you bought stuff for $1? Was it something you decided to do relatively quickly, or had you been biding your time for years and then you struck?
Hi there, hi everyone. It was, I definitely wasn't biding my time, because who could have foreseen what would have happened this year? And I think the opportunity to buy stuff, and I do characterize it as an opportunity, even though at the time it was a lot of uncertainty around, what we're facing, arose out of, I guess, the unique combination of circumstances of having an Australian owner, Nine, who had inherited us along with a much bigger deal when they bought Fairfax Media. And they never wanted to own a New Zealand business. They were really clear from the outset. And so, after a year or so of going through various sale processes, backs and forths, and then, as I'm sure most people know, sort of entering back into, or NZME making another attempt to merge with Stuff, it kind of came to the time, those sort of early weeks of the pandemic and then the lockdown, when there was so much uncertainty here. No one knew how things were going to play out then. Certainly wouldn't have thought we were in the situation we are now as a country. And I think our owners got even more determined to, wanted out of New Zealand. They wanted to focus on their own business. I think they felt that the NZME merger was unlikely to proceed at the speed that they wanted, and they started making noises about just maybe closing down the business rather than waiting to sort of get an owner. And I remember getting off a phone call with Hugh Marks, who was the CEO of Nine, who still is, where he sort of had outlaid that for me, because for a very big company like Nine, Stuff was just, they'd already written off the value of us when they bought Fairfax Media as part of their plans to sell us on. And it was just an admin thing they wanted to get sorted out. But I just remember coming off that call feeling so frustrated and, depressed and angry at this sort of sense that, all of our heritage, some of our newspapers, we have 49 newspapers, are 160 years old almost. And then we have Stuff also neighbourly, that could just be lost at a time where I think that journalism is more needed than it ever has been. And so I sort of, I had discussions with my husband and children who had ideas, as children do, even though they don't really know what's going on, and a couple of my colleagues, and just decided to ring up Hugh and say, rather than you do that, give me the business for that nominal fee of $1. And he said, yep, let's do it, and let's get it done in 2 weeks. And so it kind of plunged into a world of acquiring a business, very new to me, a lot of that stuff, a lot of intense work on clauses of contracts and things like that. And then all of a sudden, it was signed, and found ourselves having the business in our own hands. And I have to say, it's been great. I have never regretted it, and I think it's injected new energy and confidence into everyone at Stuff and what we can do.